I have a great idea.
But I'll never do it.
It might happen. Sure, the monkey's might fly out of my butt. I don't think so.
I don't see it happening.
Hey, it's me, Jon.
And me, Louise.
This is I Have a Great Idea, but I'll Never Do It. The 55th episode of the podcast all about the great ideas that we have that we're never going to do. And 55 episodes for some podcasts means like, you know, a few months in, maybe it's a year in. And for us, we've been doing this since what, 2018?
I think so.
Yeah, 2017, 2018. We've been doing this pretty long time.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. But we talk about great ideas that we have that are just like, I'm not going to do that.
No. And some of them sound better when I wake up in the middle of the night and put them in my app than they do when I say them to you. So.
And do you want to give me an example of one of those?
Sure. Yeah, let's just get right into it. Sure. One of my ideas, because it's been, on the brain, is a parent syllabus.
Ooh.
So when you have a school-age child, so much so that they receive a syllabus, like what books we're going to be reading for this quarter or however your school does it, halves, trimesters, semesters, I don't know. But for the parents, so that you don't get a message from the teacher at 5 p.m. the night before, remember to dress as your favorite historical figure tomorrow. Or like, tomorrow is stripe day. Make sure that all your stripes are blue. Like,
I have a quick question. And I know you haven't even gotten fully into the idea yet. I know that you have a very young child.
That's right.
She's
3.5.
I feel like stripes is more likely than historical figure.
That's right. That's correct.
Okay.
I just did that for effect because it's like an outlandish idea. And it's like, well, I am more than happy to comply with all weird manufactured fun.
Yeah.
Like if we're dressing up, on it. I am DIYing that in like the craftiest way. I'm having the best time doing it. Like, come as your favorite insect. Like we are saving cardboard boxes for weeks and cutting them out and painting them in the backyard. And like, I am into it. But not at 5 p.m. the night before.
Yeah.
Because that takes for me all of the fun, because then it's just a mad scramble, especially if I just need the child to eat, or we already have plans that night, or it's also bath night, like just any number, or it's pouring down rain and you can't use the backyard as a craft space. I don't know.
Or you don't have a backyard.
Or you don't have one.
And you need to figure out some sort of space to do this kind of thing.
That's right. Or if you're a person who is just like, oh man, I don't have any stripes for my child, but I would go to Carter's and spend $5 on a tank top, or I don't know, or order it on Amazon because you're only going to wear it one time, or I don't know, but you don't want to order it and have it arrive and put it on your child because, let's be serious, it came from a warehouse and you probably want to launder that first. I mean, any number of things. 5 p.m. the night before is not a great time to tell me about a thing that is happening tomorrow.
Correct.
So if I had a syllabus when we're doing insect day and when we're doing stripes day and when we're doing silly hair day, just whatever, that would be super helpful.
You know, I feel like this, I can apply this to my own life in like the very present. You know, I have an almost 7-year-old and she's in first grade, and just recently it was Teacher Appreciation Week. And I was like, okay, this is a thing. I see this out in the world. There's been no indication of it anywhere, but I know that this is a thing. So I want to make sure to get like a card and do something, like get a little gift or something. And then the next week, an email went out to a bunch of the parents from like one of the parents in the class being like, it's the teacher's birthday. Let's pool together like money and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, I do not. I spent the money that I would have spent on something like this on like the thing that happened the week before. And had I known that there was going to be like a push, and this is not a school sanctioned gift. This is a, parent sanctioned gift. But
Sure.
like if there were a list and a calendar of like things of note going on, including all of the kids' birthdays in the class, including the teacher and everything like that, so that you can kind of forecast like, all right, what am I going to need to know in the coming months?
Right.
I like
Or,
it.
as another example for the syllabus thing, tell me what all of the potential questions you might have for me are, and put them all in the checklist or the syllabus, and I can click like yes or no. As an example, they are learning about bugs right now. And today, because of the surprise deluge, they would usually use that time. Did I say on the we spoke a little before the podcast started. So there was a surprise.
You've been having a rainy day.
Yeah, but it was a surprise rainy day. It just the sky went boom and then it poured. That would have been time at daycare that they would have spent outside. But since they couldn't go outside because now everything was wet, all the play equipment and the grass and mulch or whatever, they were going to do an indoor sensory activity. And the question was, do you mind if your child eats a specific cereal that is shaped like a honeycomb? And I was like, why is this even a question? Yeah. And then I thought, well, maybe there are parents that don't want their children to eat sugary cereal. I'm not even sure how sugary it is because it's like, I forgot that was even a cereal. But it's like, oh man, I got a text from daycare in the middle of the day and about had a heart attack because I thought there had been like an incident or an injury.
Oh, yeah. I got a text from the school yesterday, and the first line is, "Dear students, staff, and families." And I'm like, uh-oh, what happened? And all of it was just like the Good News Express. Our school board approved the budget, and we announced 3 finalists for our superintendent and stuff like that. And I'm just like, dude, you gotta like, start off with just like great news from the school system, that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise it is freaky dicky.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm telling you, on the text preview on my phone, I just was like, a text from school.
Because I know, it's terrifying.
We have a whole app that uploads when they post a picture or when nap time started or whatever. And it's like, put it in the app. And so to receive a text was like adrenaline shooting through the roof that something had happened. So just a parent syllabus.
Sure, yeah.
At some point in these next 10 months, we might eat this cereal. Are you okay with that? Check.
I understand that certain things happen spur of the moment and you need to be like on your toes a little bit. But I feel like also a little bit of context would be helpful. Like, let's say that there is some sort of like, hey, this type of food is coming into play. And it's just like, our whole day was thrown off because of the unexpected rain. So we're pivoting to an indoor activity that would involve X, Y, and Z. Do you have any objections to any of the materials that would be used, including these that are that are meant to be consumed?
Yeah. And then just so that I can brag for a second, meanwhile, in January, they put plastic all over the floor inside and took the children's socks off, which are required for them to wear for sanitation reasons, or put shaving cream on the bottoms of their feet and did indoor ice skating.
Oh my God.
And my daughter came home and I was like, what smells like overly manly? It's you. Like, it was like her socks in her shoes with the residue of it. But I was like, that's awesome. Like, not thinking, someone would slip and fall or, whatever. But I was like, I didn't get asked about this.
I mean,
You can't ask about everything.
You can't ask about everything. Yeah. And
but I was like, this is the coolest. I love my daycare so much.
That's interesting. I never thought about shaving cream on the feet as being a method for skateless skates.
I mean, the videos.
Somebody had a great idea.
Somebody did. The videos were adorable.
Oh my God. Please send me one of those.
I'll try to find it. Okay.
Before we move on, I want to let everybody know that we have been very active with our other podcast, Got It, which is a little bite-sized podcast that you can listen to. Episodes are usually 1 to 2 minutes. And also, Got It is on TikTok. I've been posting from the beginning a bunch of the old Got It's in a more visual way. So that's fun. It's at Got It Podcast. So check that out on TikTok.
It also might give you just a little bit better context because part of the game is that we speak simultaneously and sometimes it's hard to hear. So if you can see it.
Right, because there's 2 words at the same time. I mean, we do have it panned, one on one side and one on the other. So if you're listening on headphones,
right,
you can either like go back 5 seconds and like lift up an ear and do the other one and be like, oh, that's what it was. But yeah.
And honestly, going back 5 seconds might be a fifth of the podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes they're lickety split.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a really fun one. You know, I see a lot of people on TikTok who are doing their own version of like a let's try to say the same word at the same time kind of a thing. And let me tell you my gripe with them. This has nothing to do with great ideas. But I see a lot of them where one person clearly feels like they have chosen the better connecting word and are like, come on, it's obviously vampire or whatever it is. And then it's like, it's not obviously vampire because that wasn't obvious to the other person. So clearly there's another word that it could have obviously been. So anyway, it's like, you have to just be like, ooh, that's interesting. I never considered that word. Now we got to move forward instead of just like, oh, come on. And so it's like, play the game, people.
Play the game.
A lot of times.
Different brains worked different ways.
And the whole thing of the game is you have to think about what the other person would say, not just what you would say.
Right.
And you and I, you know, we've known each other quite a bit. We can get into each other's heads a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although you were mentioning you having a word generator as for starting words, so I can't necessarily predict what your starting word is going to be if you're using a random word generator.
I realized last time when we recorded that all of the words that I had used were words that I put into my great idea list. Like somebody said a word that I hadn't heard about in a while, and I was like, "Ooh, that'd be interesting as a springboard." And then today, when I looked at my list, I was like, "Oh, so I didn't add any new words."
Okay, I have 3 ideas aside from our challenge, and I am going to give you the one keyword, and you can tell me which one. One of them is has to do with pets. One of them has to do with moving, and one of them has to do with a type of class. What would you like? What direction should we go in?
That's not. I have one other idea other than my challenge this week.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I almost think pets because next week is Roland's birthday.
Road dog. Oh, buddy boy.
Aww.
Okay. So
pets.
I was at the dog park recently with my dog Rufio, and there's other people that come by and they always talk to me about like my dog and other dogs and blah 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 blah. And there was a situation where it was like, oh, how old is she? And I was like, oh, he's going to be 3 this summer. And they were just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was a boy. And I was like, first of all, who cares? Also, the only way to check to see what pronoun a dog should be using is by looking at their genitals, which
That's
is
right.
weird. So I think that all pets just need to go by they, them pronouns. We're
like
getting
it.
used to it societally. And when we're out in public, it just makes sense just to say like, oh, how old are they? How old is your pup? Like being vague. And this has nothing to do with gender identity. Although
No.
my dog has not told me how they identify in the gender spectrum. But I do
And
think that
if my dog, who is a he, because you said, oh, buddy boy,
yeah.
if he did express to me successfully that
Yeah.
he presents as female, I would say, come here, girl, and not
Yeah.
think twice about it. I wouldn't make his life hard. I wouldn't make
Yeah.
her life hard.
Yeah, there you go. See, and it's just like if you use they them pronouns as society, we are all getting used to doing and not assuming. And it's like, I don't want to check the undercarriage of every dog I see just to like acknowledge them verbally.
No. Also, if you did get it wrong, just be like, oops. Like, why apologize over it? Like, what a weird.
Yeah, just correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an idea that's not so much of a this is something that can be invented or like this is a new way of doing things. Well, it is a new way of doing things,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like as a global society, here is what we are deciding to do.
I think it's maybe the first idea that we've had on the pod that I'm like, oh, I will be doing it. Because most of them, I'm like, I'm never going to do this.
Yeah.
I'll be doing
Yeah.
this.
Okay, since you have one more, do you want me to just jump since that was a quick one too? Do you want me to just jump to one more that is something that neither of us will do?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I don't know if this is still going on, but I know that recently in New York, there was an issue where men were going around and punching women randomly.
It's not just women. Didn't a celebrity get punched recently also?
Oh, Steve Buscemi just got punched.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Rick Moranis a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that like there was this thing going on where these women were just getting like randomly punched. I had an experience when I was in college where I was just walking down the street in Philadelphia and there was a group of like, teenagers and one of them just like popped me in the face and they kept on walking. And it was just like out of nowhere for no reason at all. Yeah. So my idea is called Sucker Punch Academy, and it is a self-defense class to protect oneself against random-ass city street sucker punchers. And it involves real-life random attacks until your reflexes are tightened. So you sign up, you have a few classes that are like foundational, and then you are in this next phase where it is like, all right, out in the real world, maybe kind of like certain time windows when you're going to be out, and that's like communicated, or there's some sort of like, alert that gets sent to Sucker Punch Academy. But they essentially have somebody who is not going to make contact with you, but is going to kind of like psych you out just so that you can be like, block.
I like it. Also, I would like to apply to be part of the academia and like just be paid to randomly walk around the street and try to find the student. And I love being outside. So
I love being outside.
I would love to just be an adjunct faculty and find a person. You could only do it in heavily populated areas, because if you tried to do it in a small town where there's only like 100 people, you'd know everybody, and that would be like harder.
Well, it's not really an issue in smaller towns. It's more of a city
probably
thing.
not. Yeah.
And I thought of this. So my daughter goes to a martial arts class on a couple of weekdays, and now that the weather has become nicer here in Portland, during that hour, I will, there's like a grocery store. I'll pop in there, but that doesn't take that much time. So usually I'll just like go for a walk. And I was just thinking about the martial arts school that she's in, and they are owned by queer women, and it was kind of founded with the the initial purpose of really being like self-defense for women, specifically leaning towards like the LGBTQ community. So it's open for everybody. Anybody can join, but they do have like special classes that are like geared towards those communities. And it's like, think about how like cool it is, and then it's just like, what could take it to the next level? And I was just thinking, this is not too long after there were all of these kind of like random sucker punches happening in New York, specifically against women and Steve Buscemi. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Just to piggyback on that
Mhm.
idea also, a number of years ago when I still resided in the city, when I was thinking about doing city bike and researching a bunch of helmets.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to ride my bicycle helmetless in the city. It's too crazy. I
Right.
came across some like invisible or / inflatable helmets
Right.
that you could wear. And there was one that I saw that you like put it on kind of, but it's more like a headband, but it attaches. And when it senses you are falling off your bike, it inflates.
Oh, yeah.
What if, in the name of Sucker Punch, you wear it fashionably around, and when it senses something coming at your head, it just poof.
What
And
if like a fly buzzes by you? That would be pretty jarring.
That, for the bee
Yeah.
or the fly
Yeah.
or the person wearing it, yeah.
Everybody.
But it would also be amazing because one of my huge phobias was like, there's a brick falling from a building or an
Sure,
air
yeah.
conditioner. And if your fashion headband helmet could just inflate, sensing an air conditioner is far too big for that to not.
Yeah.
But it's an idea.
Totally an air conditioner. Oh my God. That'd be so scary. Ugh. Especially
It
in New
is.
York.
That's why sometimes, like, if I'm walking too close to a building, I'm like, huh, and then move out toward the curb a little.
Isn't that a reason why, not air conditioners specifically, but isn't that a reason why in New York there's so much scaffolding? Is like because for older buildings, if bricks do fall, yeah.
Yeah, it's also a way for the landlord / building owner to get around fixing it. It's cheaper
Yeah.
to put up the scaffolding and have it there for years
Yeah.
covering a sidewalk than it is to actually fix the problem. It's a problem.
Yeah.
All of that
Yeah.
is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, New York could be such a prettier city if there were, if there was less scaffolding and trash bags on the corners.
Yeah. It's also super jarring after a scaffolding has been there for, we'll call it 5 to 7 years. And then they finally like fix the thing or move the scaffolding and you're like, what corner
Where
is
am I?
this? Exactly. It's like in the burbs if one of your neighbors like cuts down a tree or like, where's all this
Yeah.
sunlight coming from? I didn't remember it being this sunny.
Absolutely. Yeah, I should take this time to ask you because now it's been a few years since you've been outside of the city proper and living in the burbs.
Mm-hmm.
How's that feeling for you?
It's good in both ways. I was at a toddler birthday party last Saturday and met a dentist who grew up but 7 minutes from where I currently live.
Okay.
And he and I were discussing the fact that in New York City, you can practically trip over great coffee places.
Yeah.
And I can't drive 15 minutes and find anything but a diner, a Dunkin', or a Starbucks. And how
Really?
depressing. Oh, John.
It's really that far before there's any sort of like, I don't know, mom and pop coffee shop?
If you can find one that I can drive to in less than 20 minutes in one direction.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an issue. And with the dentist that I spoke to at this party, he was like, I think this should be the business you open. There's actually a very low level of like entry for education.
Yeah.
And you will like spend the money on the machinery, and the people who are coming to deliver your machinery are also gonna, like your espresso machine or whatever, are gonna teach you how to use it.
Right.
And then therefore XYZ. And yeah, I don't know.
You know, and I also see, and you know, talking also about people on TikTok, but there are people who have like really high quality like coffee carts that they operate. So that's you know, a lower overhead situation.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a lot that can be done in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Well, if you are a dentist and you have a great idea, call 304-804-IDEA. That's 304-804-4332. And leave us a voicemail with your great idea, or email greatideapod@gmail.com if you are a dentist with a cool idea.
Or any vocation.
We'll take all vocations.
Yeah.
Louise, what's your other idea?
Okay. I decided on the name right before we started the pod because it's been noodling around since, well, more than the last time we podded, because it was a previous idea that's just been sitting on the back burner. Yeah. Sitting on the back burner. And applies to only folks who are homeowners, property owners.
Okay.
So not a city plan, but grass, seed, shrub, tree. And I like it because grass seed is a word, and lots of other words end with the sound E.
Okay.
Kimberly, Stephanie, Stacy, I don't know. Grass seed shrub tree is an app. It's a landscaping app, like a visualizer, like an enhanced visualizer, in the same way that, you know, a Pottery Barn will have a visualizer for this couch in your room. Just stand back with your iPhone and you can see a terrible digital rendering of what it will not look like in your room, but we'll try. It's that for landscape or curb appeal or things like that. And you can select different filters to slide over the picture, or if it's just like a live view from your camera, you can slide it over to see what the plants will look like in 3 years and 5 years. Because as a rule of thumb, I am finding out as a person who has been in my
green thumb.
A rule of green thumb. I love it. As a person who's been living in my house now for 3.5 years, that landscaping has the lifespan of about 10 to 15 years, depending on the plants that have been planted.
Okay.
Before you need to do some drastic ripping out or changing. And depending on the plant, if it's a certain kind of shrub, if you prune it too much, then all you've got is like branches. You don't have the leaves anymore. And then it's like, not, anyway, point is, if we had an app that could be like different times of day, like this is what this will look like in the morning versus at night with the current whatever, or this is what it'll look like in May versus August when the certain plants will be flowering at different times. Or if you're working with a blank slate in terms of, you know, a la Pottery Barn and visualizing your couch, and you want to put plants into the space, and you've picked like 4 shrubs, it'll be like, in 3 years, you're really only going to have the space for 3 of those shrubs, not 4 of them, because of the way that they grow. Then you know you don't have to spend that extra money, because newsflash, some plants are real expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
Some ornamental grasses are for the rich and famous. Like, I was really obsessed with this certain grass and then was like, wait, what? How much? I thought I was going to buy 50 of these little dwarf grasses and have like a Seuss looking front yard. And it turns out I'm not made of money. And then also, if you happen to want to put a filter on it that's like, you know, pollinator friendly or the lowest maintenance possible on having to trim them. Or I have been looking into this, which is why I kind of had this idea, because I am a super, super beginner in this. And if you try to download the iPhone apps about this, you're going to need to maybe take a class or invest at least 4 or 5 hours of your time learning how to use the app, because it's like a professional landscape designer app. And it's like, I don't have time to put all these measurements in. I just kind of want to take a picture of what I got and flip a filter over it.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's also a really great opportunity to implement like GPS features, such as like what works in your climate
zone. Yeah.
Yeah. And like if you're in an area where you need some like drought resistant type stuff, and you know that like in this particular area, I don't have easy access to a hose, then you have a better idea. It's like, oh, this is totally doable with just a straight up watering can.
Yeah.
And
or
then,
you could even have like a feature on it that's like super, super conservative on the water. Ooh, another thumbs up gesture. So that you can say like, oh, visually, you'd like to have this kind of shrub or flower. But if you use these alternatives, they require less watering. So you don't have to have your irrigation system or use such a precious resource, you know, to, I don't know. I also, this whole idea was somewhat inspired by an Instagram reel that I saw about personal growth. And it was like, if I try to plant something in my yard and it dies, I never think to myself, that lazy seed.
Right.
That lazy seed didn't have enough drive or ambition. That seed is dumb. So if you know, I think what kind of environment would have let the seed do its thing because it wants to grow no matter what? And did you give it enough time to do that? So like be kind to yourself. And if you're not growing in the way that you want, can you change about your environment or whatever? And so that's kind of what I thought too, because I was thinking, you know, none of the plants are lazy. Most of them in my yard are overgrown. But what environmental things can you plug into the filter to create optimum growth?
As you were saying that, it was also making me think a little bit about, you know, when we are thinking about personal growth and the things that we add to our life, it's just like this thing that I'm adding to my life, does it work in tandem with the other things that are growing in my garden? You know, or is this going to be fighting for resources?
Companion plants.
Companion plants. Exactly. Yeah. If you're growing pumpkins, you want to have some like zucchini or something over there.
Yeah. Or there's other ones. I'm from Iowa, and every couple of years you want to rotate the crops because corn is just ripping the like enriched bits of whatever out of the soil. And so you rotate it and you plant soybeans on that field because the soybeans like regenerate the soil and put nutrients back into the soil. And so you want to make sure, that your plants that you're deciding on, maybe you'll get a or you'll get a yay and like confetti when you put the plants together. Or if it's like a curb appeal issue, is this a plant this now and next year it's not coming back? Right. I don't know, the annuals versus perennials. Or is it you put this really small shrub behind this giant wild grass and now you can't see it. So rearrange. I don't know. Something like that. Grassy trunk tree.
I like where your head's at. I currently have a front yard that is just like a complete mess. The grass is just weird, and the weeds have taken over, and there's areas where like new things have sprouted up where I don't want them, and it's like, God, this is so exhausting. And I hate the grass. I just want to get rid of all the grass. But of course, then it's like, then what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah. So there's always a need if you are somebody who does have some sort of outdoor space to like figure out how you need it to be to like get you where you need it to be, get you like, how you envision it
Right. It's also kind of
into the future.
Yeah, I had this mantra when we lived in our small 1-bedroom apartment in New York. If you can't change your habit, change your habitat. And so it's like if you come in and you throw your coat down by the door every day, where you take your shoes off, like if you can't put your coat in the closet that is 3 feet right there, put a hook on the wall right inside the door so that your coat hangs. So if you can't change your habit, change your habitat. And I think just we as people don't spend as much time outside as people used to. And so if you can make your outdoor space a place that you want to be, maybe you'll be there.
Right. Yeah.
Even for 30 more minutes a day, just be there. As a person with a dog, both of us have dogs.
Yeah.
We are even outside far more than non-pet owners.
So for anybody who's watching this episode on YouTube, which you can do, by the way, you'll notice that I am in a shed. It is my office, but yes, it is a shed. And so to my left, I have just this like giant door that goes out to the yard. And I have a yard that is, I'd say, 70% like concrete slab, hardscaped, that has some like planter boxes on it. And then there's, a grassy area that has a swing set for my kid that she never uses that I got off of the Buy Nothing group. And grass that grows like crazy. And I look at it and it fills me with anxiety. There's also a covered, like paved, hardscaped area that has like a table that I never sit at and chairs that I never sit in. And it's like, what is the best way to make use of the space? What should I be doing differently? And, of course, in the summertime, when the sun is at full blast, it just bakes back here. So it's like, all right, what do I do to make this a better situation for everybody? So there's always so much to consider. And, the backyard is also where my dogs spend a lot of their time. And so it's a luxury not everybody has, but I'm sure glad that it's there. And I want to make sure that I'm making the most of it for myself, my kid, and my children who use they, them pronouns when they're in public.
Yeah. I like it.
I have one more great idea, and then you want to move on to challenges?
Let's do it.
Okay. I teed this up before. This is a moving related one. So it's also involved with not necessarily home ownership, but, living somewhere. So I don't know if such a thing exists. I did a search and I found nothing, but it will be really cool to have a business where there's a moving contractor. So let's say you have a move coming up, you're busy with work, you've got kids stuff going on, there's so much to figure out, and the stress of figuring out your entire move situation is just like weighing on you. You hire a move contractor who does the research to find the best moving company and like price checks and everything based on the situation. They do all of the the packing, and coordinating the packing, coordinating storage if there needs to be storage, arranging for a cleaner to clean your old place and make repairs for minor damage. So somebody who just goes through and does all of that stuff so that you don't have to worry about it, because moving is stressful. It's expensive no matter what. If you just put down a little bit more money, then it can save you a lot in like stress equity.
Yeah. It's like a wedding planner and like the day of point person, and a little bit also like if you could put all of your payment to this contractor, and then they pay, like an escrow idea.
Right.
And then they
Sure.
pay the moving company, and then they pay the...
It's kind of like how an interior designer has like special deals that they have with, warehouses and, manufacturers for furniture and stuff like that, where it's like maybe they have a special deal that they have with particular moving companies.
Vendors or, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Also, sometimes if you're moving, you need to be like there's perhaps a buffer zone where you can't be in either home for whatever reason. So perhaps this contractor can also arrange for you to stay at an Airbnb that's nearby, that's pet friendly if you have pets, and they have like an activity set up for like the kids. So it's like everybody's out of the house when they need to be out of the house, and people can do what they need to do. And yeah, because it's like, if you make a list of all of those things and you're just like, I have to do all of this and try and figure out the schedules for everything. I'm just going to put this off. And then you put it off and you put it off, and then things go south, and you're just having to live in the stress.
Yeah. I will also say, as an example of another thing that they could do, when we moved, it was the pandemic, and neither one of us were in the office because it was the beginning of the pandemic, and we had a ton of time to do the thing. And we also had lived in our apartment for 6 years, and a lot of our things were very, very Tetrised in there. So if a company came in to try to pack up all of our stuff for us, we didn't want people to be in there because COVID, but
Sure,
it would have been like really hard for them to efficiently like empty out the closets or the loft or the cabinets, because everything was so specifically Tetrised in to our apartment. And then we used the bedroom as the like staging ground for all of the boxes before the actual movers came.
I remember,
and we were
you
like
showing me that.
Yeah, we were like, what do we do if we pack something that we just like, oh my gosh, I need that? So Chris and I made a spreadsheet, and every single box had a number. And on the spreadsheet, it was like number box. And then, because most of the time when people move, or I guess people in my life, and this is my experience, will be like kitchen, living room, bedroom 1, bedroom 2. And that's how the boxes are labeled. But if you have a little bit more involved of a situation and you need to find the thing, your moving contractor, concierge, can also oversee the packing of the boxes and be doing, or their team or whatever, could be like making the spreadsheet on the fly, like a shared Google Doc, so that even though you were no part of the packing, when you get to your new place, you're like, I need the lid to the frying pan so that I can saute, quick flash steam that broccoli tonight. Where is the lid? And then you can be like, well, it's in box 40.
Right. And this type of situation also implies that like the packing and the moving all happen pretty much one right after the other. So where you might be starting to pack 2 weeks in advance, you don't need to do that in this situation because they've got it covered. Right. Now, unpacking, clearly you'll want to like supervise that, but perhaps they have, they arrange it with a moving company that there's like, they do the unpacking and they consult with you of like, where do you want this?
Right.
Which, also, I mean, unpacking can also take years. Yes. I'm sure I have some boxes that still have stuff in them. Yeah.
Same. It's just also can be as involved and such a stressor like a wedding. And it's like you're planning that thing a year in advance and you're talking about whatever. I mean, I didn't for mine, but it's absurd the way that moving happens with the barometer of stress that goes along with this like big life change that we don't afford the courtesy to ourselves to give it that attention as we
Yeah.
would something like a joyous occasion or planning of a birthday party or what
Yeah.
have you. And it kind of needs that. And it
Yeah.
needs someone to help you.
Yeah. And maybe part of what they do is like they also make it a more special experience for you. They like put a little bit of pomp and circumstance into it where like when you then arrive after the movers have finished doing what they need to do, then you are welcomed into a home that isn't feeling overwhelming. And there is, you know, somebody that's there to like welcome you and make it a bit of a special day.
Yeah. You know what? As we talk about this too, I am wondering if this is more of our generation and future flexing like issue or thing because we are so much more spread out than generations before us. And like as an example, if my mom who grew up and then went to college and then returned to the town that she grew up in and then like basically lived all of like there, and so did her one moved away farther, siblings, you might say, why doesn't your family just help you move? And it's like, well,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
in New York and my family's in Iowa and you're in
Yeah.
Portland and your family is in New York and New Jersey. And like, I don't have that. Also, I'm an only child. What family are you pulling out of the sky for me? I have nobody. I'm an only child. So generations ago, you would have 6,
Right.
5, 4 siblings.
All the cousins would come.
That's right. Who can carry boxes or pack a truck or loan you their truck or, you know, whatever. Sit with you while you're tissue wrapping the delicate items.
Yeah.
I wonder now, even if it's just, you know, us and younger sort of issue.
Could
and
be.
we're moving more frequently than
Absolutely.
people in
Well,
previous generations.
real estate has become a game.
Yes.
And also, if you are purchasing a home, or thinking about it, it's unattainable for so many people.
Mhm.
And I feel like if you and I were born a few years later, it might not have ever happened for us for
Yes.
like owning a home.
Yes.
And it's scary, and it should be illegal for, you know, companies to own residential properties. And it's problem after problem after problem. And
Right.
there's nobody that's making any big moves to solve it. But there are certainly lots of other like generational elements that come into play. I feel like we, as time goes on, each generation becomes less and less sentimental about things.
Yes.
And of course there are going to be like some things, but like, oh, this is my grandmother's china from her wedding. And it's like, people aren't doing that so much more. People are getting married after they're like 19 these days. So it's like, you don't need all the stuff to like set up your first house. Like a lot of people in our generation and beyond are, you know, either getting married later in life, choosing not to get married. They're, you know, living life before, you know, and trying to figure out like where they belong geographically before, you know, settling down.
Yeah.
And settling down can mean a lot of different things.
And or, gee, I don't know. Does Grandma's China have like lead in the paint on it? I certainly can't put Grandma's China in the dishwasher. I'm not going to hand wash this.
Before you said, does Grandma's China have lead in the paint? I thought you were going to say, does Grandma's China have like offensive iconography on it in the design?
And it
like,
might.
Are there any like hidden swastikas on here or something?
Underneath the floral pattern, you'll notice. Yeah. Or just even that, like a floral pattern. Like, I'm not really that into flowers and I, you know, love Grandma, but.
Yeah. No, certainly functionality and design is something that, intersects in a lot of different ways. Are you making faces at the dog behind me who's up to no good? Dude, what are you doing?
He has a great idea.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna sniff this over here. So the function of things kind of comes first for a lot of people, and then when it comes to design, there is an understanding that design evolves, and unfortunately, because we live in such a disposable society, that's kind of where our mindset is about our sentiment for heirlooms.
Right.
If it's a small trinket, that's a different story.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that.
There's that.
There's that.
So, Louise, on our last episode, I challenged you to invent a new sport.
You
What
sure
did you
did.
come up with?
Well, here's what I came up with, because I was thinking about, I really, really put a lot of thought into this, because you said don't
Okay.
come up with 4 sports, come up with 1 sport,
Yeah.
and it doesn't even have to be good.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about all of the things that go into sports
Mm-hmm.
and, strength, speed, agility, and how certain sports are way more teamy and other sports are way more sort of individual, if that
Tennis, if you will.
Well, right.
Golf.
I was even thinking in terms of a team sport such as, we'll call it basketball, because again, I'm from Iowa for the millionth time, listeners. And the Iowa women's basketball team this year had an incredible year.
Yeah.
A ton.
I watched for quite a big long stretch of it.
Yeah, a ton of incredibly talented athletes, but the one that keeps getting the most attention, Caitlin Clark. So it's like it's a team sport, and they're all, running and moving and jiving, and they're all dribbling and they're all shooting, but mostly it feels like, at least if you try to do the stats on it, like, get this one player the ball. And in terms of baseball, where there's like less running than soccer or basketball, there is running, but less.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's not consistent running.
Right. Like when you're in the outfield, you're like the team. And when you're batting, it's like your individual talent. So I tried to also football.
I love the way you're approaching this.
Yeah,
just gotta say.
And football, as an example, too, like the offense and defense might as well be just different teams.
Yeah.
Like they're not on the field at the same time. Their duties are not the same. Their bodies are not the same.
Right.
The skills that they need to do in the game are not the same. So I was trying to incorporate strategy, physicality, agility, like precision, and then also be mindful of like team and the individual's moment to shine, as well as putting my own unique stamp on it.
Okay.
And I think what I've come up with is called Fairy Ball.
Okay.
And you play it in a secret garden type hedge maze.
Oh my God.
And the players wear fairy wings with like hand paddles on them.
Okay.
So imagine like the wings.
If you are
and
watching on
have to,
YouTube, you are getting the full Louise experience right now.
Yeah. And you have like little hand paddles, and they can, be the color of your team. And you have Dr. Seuss looking lollipop furry things that the other team, when they're on defense, has in the like makeshift hedge mazy thing. So you, as the fairy baller, when it's your turn, like up at bat or whatever,
Yeah.
have to use your wing paddles
Oh my God.
to get your hand flappies on your wings to match the color poof. So it's like a little paintball-y inspired also.
Okay.
And they're placed in different areas and different colors of the poof paints mean like a different number of points. So if you're like happen to be very like low to the ground and you get the difficult, ones to achieve, it gets you. It's not dissimilar from hitting a single or a double or a home run out of the park.
Sure.
Or,
Okay.
like if you're like super fast and you get all of the colors, or if you get like every single flappy is covered, and then the other team can like push their lollipop poof out at you, and theirs is like a gray or a black or a white. And so if you've gotten a flappy that has blue and then it gets the black over it, the blue is negated. Also, in the same way that if you're curling, you've knocked the stone out of the target space, they have like negated your color
Sure.
run.
Yeah.
So fairy ball, it's outside. You have to deal with weather conditions if you need to. It's not like ice skating on the rink. It's like
I was envisioning like an indoor setup or like a covered outdoor setup.
Maybe it changes when your team travels in the same way that baseball stadiums now have retractable ceilings.
Yeah.
I think if you're in like Florida, they have ceilings that either retract or don't retract, because like clockwork in the rainy season, it just rains at 3:00 or 4:00 every day, and it ruins the turf. Anyway, if you are dealing with it being like slippery or wet, or now you're inside and I don't know. So it's just, there's like defense strategy moments, because do you want to put all of your Seuss poofers, toward the end and not have them in the first part of the maze as much, because you're not, wiping off any of the paints, but then, and if the person is very, very speedy or can go sideways or is very small, or, since it is a maze, you don't know where they are in the maze at any given time. And since you have to, one of the rules is you have to push the poker through the hedge. And I say the poker, but imagine a pool noodle. Like it's not gonna like impale anyone. So you can't just like all of a sudden be sword fighting with the fairy.
Right.
Yeah. So you're kind of just, or like pollinating as many flowers as you possibly can. Yeah.
I would love to crawl into your brain and get a better sense of all it is that you're talking about. I love it. I love the enthusiasm. I don't understand all of it, but I know that there's something there.
It's like a color run. Agility. Okay. Imagine a dog agility course.
Yes.
With hedge mazes and people trying to distract the dog with treats, only the treats are like paint, and you have to like go through this like obstacle-y course. So maybe you're timed also. I didn't think about timing in the first place. I was just like, it's like baseball, and maybe the inning goes like longer because the person like didn't get the black smears and they're going a little slower because their strategy is, if I'm super quiet on my turn through, then they won't know where I am, and I'll just get to quick boop and flap my wing paddle to get that yellow, and boop, flap my wing paddle to get that purple, and then I won't get my little smears.
I
they won't know where I am.
This is a lot of fun. I wish that, and perhaps there is a way to adapt this to like a small scale. Like you don't have to be in like an arena to do this, but more like a playground kind of a thing.
It's called fairy ball because the ends of the pool noodle type equipment is a poof with like color on it, whether it's like pigment, like Holi.
See, this is why I imagine this being. This is why I imagine this being like indoors or in a covered situation, is because if there's like, color and poofs and stuff like that, adding rain, although that could just be an entirely separate, element to it that, just makes it more challenging.
Right. On certain days, like, oh man, the last time they faced the fairy warriors, the mermaids did great. Or, you know, I don't know, the last time they faced the Trojan ogres, you know.
Yeah. And also it's like,
or like
just
the toadstools or something, and they all have
and,
like little.
And imagine the trading cards that could come of this. They would look like Pokemon cards.
I love it.
Yeah. That's fun. I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm. It was one idea that was very involved that a lot of thought went into.
I like it. And it's so appreciated that you put so much thought into it. And on the last episode,
I challenge you to?
You challenged me to stickers.
Okay.
And here's what happened. I encountered something in real life that I was like, ooh, I'm going to challenge Louise to try and figure out something like this. But then when I started thinking about stickers, I was like, wait a second. This is my challenge. This is how I need to approach this one. So when for the stickers that I'm thinking of the little stickers that are on produce. And, right? And so sometimes when they're on something like an avocado that has like a very firm outer shell, you could just peel that sucker right off, or not. You don't even have to. But when it's something like the aforementioned zucchini, and it's like they get wet and it just gets really gloopy and sticky.
And if you try to peel it off, you'll maybe get your nail under under the skin.
And so what I say is, for fruits and vegetables, especially those soft ones, no more stickers. I'm just saying no stickers. And it's time to move on from wasteful stickers to something that is probably already either equipped or close to being equipped at grocery stores anyway, which is cameras that can certainly identify what certain fruits and vegetables are. You know, you have a smartphone, you take a picture of it and it says like, oh, that's a zucchini.
It'll go more than that. It'll tell you like the genus, class, like
it'll tell you if it's ripe, it'll tell you all that stuff. So if that technology can just be implemented into what's probably already existing at a supermarket checkout line, we don't need stickers anymore. Yes, there's already like the self-checkout stuff that's just like type in the name of the product, which I do sometimes, which if there's like no sticker on the item that I'm going for, you type it in, or it's just like you look at the pictures and you pick out a picture. If you're in a checkout line, and there is an actual person there and they punch in a code, a lot of them are trained to just know the codes, or they have a book that has the codes. But you can even like hold up an old iPhone that's not even like, it's just connected to Wi-Fi or something, and you hold it in front of it and it's just like, that's a carrot. Yeah. I know what a carrot looks like. Yeah. I can tell by its characteristics.
And sometimes you're the one doing the sticker if you've ever purchased anything bulk at the grocery store, like nuts or olives or rice, whatever. Like it says like what the number is, and then you punch in the number. I am impressed.
You're impressed.
I am.
My idea for your challenge was to not do that anymore.
That's right. But I'm impressed. I'm telling you, this episode might have to be called something about Jon's great ideas that we are doing.
No. Okay. Stop it.
This is like,
we have had
good stuff.
There's been a lot of like plant life themes going on. I don't know. We'll figure something out. I'm not worried about it. So Louise, what would you like to challenge me to for the next episode?
Okay. Well, Memorial Day weekend is upon us. Okay. And so that is the unofficial/official familiar start to the summer. Yeah. So your challenge for next time is sunscreen. Or sun protection.
Sunscreen/protection. Great. I love it. So, in honor also of summer, I am going to challenge you to summer fun activities for introverts.
Okay. I am excited.
Okay, cool. So if you have a great idea, please write to us, greatideapod@gmail.com. Call us 304-804-IDEA. That's 304-804-4332. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a nice little rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Check us out on YouTube so you can see Louise's gesticulations when describing the fairy ball. Yeah, I don't know. And listen to Got It. We're going to go record some more Got It's. I'm excited.
I am too. And hey, thanks for hanging out with me.
Thanks for hanging out with me.
I don't see it happening.